Bowser has always been infamous for how ruthless he is to the innocent citizens of the Mushroom Kingdom. His never-ending strive to have Princess Peach by his side and his love for just destruction in general, so you'd think someone like this wouldn't care very much for the people who work under him, right? Well, that's not really the case. In fact, Bowser holds his minions in quite high regard, especially his only son Bowser Jr. However, there's another set of minions that he's held arguably in equal regard to Bowser Jr., those being his other children, the Koopalings. Yes, I know they're not actually his children, but they might as well be, okay? Like, come on. These Koopalings would serve to be some of most Mario's notable foes throughout his 2D titles and have even made some cameos in major spin-off games like Mario Kart 8. So in this video, I want to go over each individual member of the Koopaling clan. Larry Koopa, otherwise known as Cheatsy Koopa in the cartoons, is the youngest of the Koopaling bunch. Oddly enough, even though he's the youngest, the original Super Mario World guidebook describes Larry as Bowser's #1 Koopaling, and the reason for that being listed the way it was is likely because Larry was the last boss you fought in Super Mario World before the Koopa King himself. Granted, in more recent Mario games, that doesn't seem to be the case. There's a lot of different sources about the origin of Larry's name too. There was once a rumor that Larry was named after the talk show host Larry King, but that was cleared up by Dave Brooks, who originally named the Koopalings, saying he was actually named after Larry Mullen Jr., aka the drummer for the hit band U2, which makes the most sense considering the other Koopalings were named after famous musicians as well, which I will get into later. Most of Larry's battles throughout the 2D titles are fairly basic in the sense that he just uses his wand to create blasts of light blue fire and jump around occasionally. His Super Mario World fight was pretty much just like Iggy's, but a bit harder. His most unique fights definitely came from the Mario spin-offs, specifically Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga, Paper Jam, and Paper Mario Color Splash. I especially like the little game of tennis you had to play with him in Superstar Saga. Say what you want about the overall quality of the other two games, but at least it wasn't so easy to the point where you could just stun lock him like you could in the 2D titles. Morton Koopa Jr. or Big Mouth Koopa is one of the more physically strong Koopalings, but also the most slow-witted, which I think is one of the main reasons why he's usually fought early on during his boss fights throughout the Mario franchise. He tends to use his heavy weight to his advantage in his fights against Mario, whether it'll be creating multiple shockwaves that Mario would need to jump over or one that could race platforms to the ceiling. He's also been shown to use a standard wand like Larry, but in more recent times, it's been a magical hammer. Once again, having more unique fights in the Mario RPG/spin-off games too, which will be a trend amongst the Koopalings here if you couldn't already tell. Though for some reason in Mario & Luigi Paper Jam, he was only fought one time at the very end of the game alongside two of his other Koopaling members, that being, Iggy and Lemmy. Whereas the remaining four were fought more than once during the main story. I still never really understood that design choice, to be honest. Morton is also named after a talk show host and/or singer-songwriter, Morton Downey Jr. That being the only reason the Jr. is even in his name, not because his real father's name is Morton Sr. Wendy Koopa, or Cootie Pie Koopa, is the only female member of the 7 Koopalings. Arguably having the most unique fighting style amongst the group, she summons up to several rings that are able to bounce off walls, as well as the floor or the ceiling, making it harder to dodge than the rest of the standard wand blasts. This style of fighting is even implemented into her RPG-style battles, and those things are pretty tricky too. She's historically been fought in worlds that are on water or ice themed in the 2D titles as well. It got a pretty heavy temper on her too, as seen in Mario & Luigi Paper Jam when she'll occasionally attack Roy out of nowhere. She is named after the famous musician Wendy O. Williams, aka the lead singer of the Plasmatics. Now for my personal favorite Koopaling from the bunch, Iggy Koopa and/or Hop Koopa. This unhinged, mechanical-loving maniac is always a treat to fight. He may be on the easier side to fight, but a lot of his more recent fights have been very creative, mainly the ones revolving around chain chomps. It adds a lot more depth to the fight because he's one of the few Koopalings that's a lot harder to stun lock after you attack them compared to the others, since the chain chomp is the one going on a rampage instead of Iggy just spinning around in his shell in between attacks, which he still does in other fights, by the way, and noticeably faster than the rest of the Koopalings too. If you listen closely in his new Super Mario Bros. Series fights, the spinning sound effect goes faster with Iggy compared to the other Koopalings. Iggy tends to be the overlooker of the forest worlds in the most 2D games, but at times he's been fought super early on in some games as well, like how Super Mario World made him the first boss, or, he's the first Koopaling fought in Superstar Saga too. And like Morton, he's one of the only Koopalings fought just one time in Mario & Luigi Paper Jam. Iggy's appearance has changed the most drastically compared to the other Koopalings too, I think. Back in the day, he used to look a lot more close to Lemmy, both in stature and hairstyle, whereas nowadays he's become a lot taller, slimmer, and he has green hair kind of like in the shape of a tree, which is very fitting to his forest world appearances throughout history. And Iggy is named after the famous singer Iggy Pop, known for being the main man for the band The Stooges. Roy Koopa, or Bully Koopa, is the coolest Koopa around. My man ain't afraid to show off his pink hair or shell because True Chadwicks represent the color pink with zero shame on their shoulders. Roy is similar to Morton in the sense where he uses a lot of brute force in his fights, like creating the same types of shockwaves that would stun or damage Mario if he didn't time his jump properly. He is shown to be a bit more intelligent than Morton too, which is probably why he's fought as a later boss than Morton is in most of the games. Even being the final Koopaling boss in Paper Mario Color Splash, which had never been done before. Roy had never been a final Koopaling boss until this game. And prior to this game, it was always the same two that would flip-flop between being a final Koopaling fight. Another comparison to be made to Morton is Roy's been shown to stray away from traditional wand use in more recent games, opting for a bullet bill cannon that can shoot bullet bills out of both ends of it. And their Super Mario World fight is pretty much the same, just with different color palettes over the sprite. They just like climb on the walls and try to drop down on you. Also, Roy is named after famous musician Roy Orbison, who, like Roy, also wears pink magenta glasses. Arguments could be made for him to be the strongest Koopaling for having just the right amount of brains and brawn, but I'd have to disagree. Lemmy Koopa, or Hip Koopa, is the most childlike of the Koopalings in terms of his personality, which is ironic because he's confirmed older than Larry, so. Lemmy probably has some of the easier boss fights throughout Mario game history, mainly the ones revolving around his large bouncing balls. The balls he'll shoot out of his wand actually don't damage Mario, but they rather knock him backwards if Mario makes contact with the sides of them. But at the same time, Mario can just jump on the balls to gain even more jump height if timed properly, which he can, use to his advantage, and the timing isn't that hard either. One of the only exceptions to this list is in New Super Mario Bros. U, where he throws bombs that you cannot jump on. And to this day, I'm not sure why his boss fight is in the OG Super Mario Bros. 3 was so late in the game, with it, being fairly easy. Either way, his fights are still fun though. He's named after the former lead singer of Motorhead, Lemmy Kilmister. His namesake for the famous rock star may be a reason as to why Lemmy was given a ponytail, since Kilmister was known for having longer hair back in the day. Last but certainly not least, Ludwig von Koopa. If you couldn't tell, I tried to order this list on who I think the youngest to oldest Koopalings are, since Larry was fought first in Super Mario Bros. 3, and Ludwig was fought last in Super Mario Bros. 3. And this is the Koopaling I believe to be the strongest of the bunch. This stems from just how versatile he is with his attacks. Not only does he have solid physical strength compared to everyone but Roy and Morton, but his magical skills are superb. His wand will shoot either multiple blasts at once or one blast that will follow Mario around like a heat-seeking missile. Not only that, but he can flutter around like a freaking Yoshi, make clones of himself, and is one of the few Koopalings to take advantage of the spinning shell even before he can take damage. Coupled with the fact that he's the confirmed oldest and de facto leader to the clan other than Bowser himself. Hence why he's usually saved for final battles in the 2D titles, which to me I think should just be the case for every game they're in if he's supposed to be the leader. It feels off to me to have him be fought before someone like Wendy when he clearly has superior abilities. Ludwig is of course named after Ludwig van Beethoven, with the two of them even sharing fairly similar hairstyles. In the earlier titles it was even closer because Ludwig's in-game model had white hair, but of course it was changed to blue in-game to match up with his 2D models from the guidebooks. Thank you guys so much for watching as I gave this brief rundown on the Koopalings. Since there's never really been any long consistent plot with them due to how Mario games work, this video wasn't as long as I would have liked it to have been, but still, I had fun nonetheless. Which of the Koopalings is you guys' favorite? Do you think Ludwig isn't the strongest? I would love to know your thoughts. Of course, if you did enjoy this video, be sure to leave a like down below and subscribe for more awesome Mario and other Nintendo content, because I definitely got you guys covered. But for now, I will see you guys next time. Peace out, take care, bye-bye.